grew up in the Parisian suburbs, and growing up, I had never been a good student. I was always sitting at the back of the class. I was daydreaming and drawing on the table. And at that time, everything seemed to bore me. I wasn't interested in anything in particular. I didn't like to learn, and I didn't like to read, except for comic books. But still, I was doing the bare minimum, and I was hardly passing classes, and yet somehow made it through vocational high school because my grades were not good enough to be admitted in general high school. But in the French system, in the French vocational high school, you still have to learn general topics such as history, foreign languages, literature. And that year, my literature teacher was a woman called Madame Claude. In her 40s, she was blonde-ish with messy hair, always dressed in black clothes, and she was very passionate. She was she was giving her class sitting at the edge of the table and speaking passionately about books and poems. And there was one book in particular that she made us read. It was called Le Grand Cahier, or The Notebook, written by Hungarian author Agota Christoph. And that book tells the story of twin brothers who are being sent from the city to the countryside to stay at their grandmother because there's a war taking place. And we don't know where the story takes place, but we can imagine it's happening in an Eastern European country. And so through the eyes of these two young boys, we see the horrors of war and the darkest behaviors of humans. And there's one scene I will read to you that happens the next morning when the two boys sleep in a room, and there's a German soldier who happens to be there, and they stay in the same room, and then the next morning, this takes place. So there's this dialogue. Don't move. Keep sleeping. But we want to pee. We have to go. Don't go. Do it here. We ask, but where? He says, on me. Yes. Don't be afraid. Piss on my face. We do it. Then we go out in the garden because the bed is all wet. So me, at the age of 14, I read that book. And not this scene, but also sexual perversion, scenes of zoophilia, rape, sexual abuse, torture. I was in shock. And something sparkled in me. How could a book be so cruel, so bold, so intense? And somehow, at that age, I also felt that the world was a cruel and crazy place. And I somehow identified with those two boys, and I thought, well, maybe I could also make my way in life. But not only Madame Claude gave us that book to read, but she also taught us how to read it, how to access the content. She made us study the structure, the context, the historical background, the author biography. And I realized there are so many ways to access and to interpret the same content. And in her class, I also learned to analyze, to criticize, to structure thoughts, ideas, and to express myself with words. And also to start writing because we had a lot of assignments such as writing an essay, poems, and short stories. And that class totally transformed me. It really awoke a passion in literature for me. And after reading that book from Agota Christoph, I read all her other novels, and I continuously went to the library to borrow new books. And that even helped me to be more interested in school. So I got more interested in other subjects, except math. I still hated math. But my grades got better. And I even got to change from vocational school back to general school and to study literature. And I graduated with A+ in literature. I was very, very glad. And after that, well, I went to college, I started to study arts administration, but after a few months, I got bored, I disengaged, and I dropped. So after that, well, many things happened. I worked in small jobs, I traveled, went to study finance, which is ironic because I hated numbers. But yeah, I graduated from business school in finance, went to work in Singapore as an investment banker, worked in Spain, quit all that, became an artist here in Cambodia, became an actor, went back to France, started to write, and a few days before my first play, Cambodia, Here I Am premiered, I thought of my literature teacher again. Because it was her really who provoked that interest in reading and in writing. So I wanted to invite her and I wanted to reconnect with her and yeah, and have her see the result of what she has opened. So I went on Google and I tapped her name, Madame Claude, lycée Guillaume Apollinaire, 1996, and find an email address. So I write and I thought, well, that was 12 years ago. Probably she's changed her email, she doesn't remember me, she didn't care. And I was as nervous as if I was inviting somebody on a date. But she did reply, and she said she remembered me and she would be very pleased to come and see the play, and she did. And that play, Cambodia, Here I Am, is about the experience of the Cambodian diaspora in France and the way we carry on with the genocide as a heritage and how we deal with that. So she came to see the play, and after that we went for a coffee, and we talked about what happened with me, what happened with her. She said that she's actually stopped teaching and she's now training other teachers. And we also talked about that year in 1996 when she was my teacher. Yes, I'm 4. I'm old.
Woo! 40!
And we talked about that book, The Notebook, and I told her how much that book meant for me. And she was very surprised, and she said, Le Grand Cahier, mais mon Dieu, I would never get away with teaching that again nowadays. And I was surprised. I thought, like, why? And she said, well, these days people are very sensitive. All the violence and the sexual content would be considered inappropriate for such young readers. I thought she was exaggerating. But in fact, a few years before, police came into a classroom when a teacher was teaching that same book because parents considered that the students were reading pornography. Mm. And things even are taking, I would say, darker turn. As you might know, a few months ago in France, history teacher Samuel Paty was murdered and even had his head cut off after he gave a class on freedom of expression. So it is only now that I realize that Madame Claude went beyond her role to make us access content that could be controversial. And I think it's even more true nowadays because we can see the society is becoming more and more tense and polarized, and artists and writers and teachers are being exposed and even targeted. Of course, it's not for me to say what risk they should take, what they should say or not say, but I do think that we should be able to shake and to shock people, especially young people, to make them access the world in all its beauties, but also its atrocities. And myself, as a writer and as a theater artist, I have never been shy to provoke thoughts and ideas and expose my audience and my readers to, I would say, disturbing content. Just like Madame Claude did with me. And that changed my life. And I believe that there's a Madame Claude inside all of us that is waiting to inspire and to change other people's lives. Thank you.